Hey everyone, Kyle here. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain a little bit. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's anchor.fm. They'll have everything you need all in one place. I can speak from my experience. It's been awesome so far and super easy. So go check it out, guys, and we'll see you later. Welcome, everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm your host, Kyle Rasmussen, and welcome to episode 35. So if you listened to episode 30, the first part of my big summer road trip back in 2017, you'll know that this is going to be, this episode is part 2 of that road trip. So where we left off in episode 30 was I had stopped in Boulder for a few days to see family, see my extended family, my new baby cousin at the time. And so now I've completed my time in Boulder and I'm continuing along with my road trip, ultimately making my way back to San Diego for school. So after I was in Boulder, I actually went back up north about an hour or so, I believe, to Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I went up there for a day just because I hadn't been there and I wanted to check it out. Wanted to see the Capitol and that sort of thing as I'm trying to, knock off all the capitals as well in my travels. And so I went up there and actually had a really fun time. It was a short time there, but I was pleasantly surprised by how nice Cheyenne, Wyoming was. When I first got up there, I went to the state capitol, which was really nice. And then I went to I believe it was the Wyoming History Museum or something like that. I got to learn a lot of the history of Wyoming and some of the natural history as well. So that was a ton of fun as well. And then I went to the train depot. They had Cheyenne was a big depot for the Transcontinental Railway. A lot of railways or rail lines kind of conjuncted through there. And so they had a nice train depot, and inside was a history of the trains in that area and how it kind of built up in that area, which was really quite fascinating. And they had, I got to find the picture somewhere. I can't find it here as I'm looking through the pictures, but they had a massive model train set in there. It's probably the largest one I've ever seen by far. It was incredible. Anyway, so I really enjoyed that as well. And the train depot happened to be right downtown. And so I actually was staying right off of the square downtown next to the depot and everything. Stayed in this really cool old hotel. It had a lot of history in it. Not gonna lie, it was a little creepy. Staying there by myself, but really nice, ornate old hotel. I really enjoyed staying there. But then in the square that night, which I didn't realize until I was actually there, but they had a sort of like music in the square type of thing. So I went to that actually. So they had some live music out there. People could bring their lawn chairs, they could dance, that sort of thing. They had some food trucks and some vendors there as well. So I just ended up having a couple beers and some food and enjoyed the live music. And it was a beautiful day, beautiful evening, and actually really enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun. So then after that, the next day, I drove back down south. I went through Denver, stopped in Denver briefly to go to the Botanical Gardens and the state capitol, and did that. And then I continued south down to Colorado Springs, which is where I stayed the night for that day. And when I first got there, I went to the Garden of the Gods, which is a beautiful area. You can walk through. It's these red red rocks that stick out of the scenery there, and you can walk around. I think some people climb it, although I'm not sure if you're supposed to or not. But that was a fun place, really cool pictures there, which I can share. And then I actually just kind of chilled out that night. I got there in the afternoon, late afternoon, so everything was kind of closing down anyways. So I just went to my hotel, kind of regrouped, had some dinner, went to bed. And then the next day, I got up early, explored a little bit of Colorado Springs, went down to kind of the historic downtown area. They had like a little farmer's market type of thing going on down there. So that was fun to see. And then I went by the U.S. Olympic training center. Didn't get to go into it at all, but it was kind of cool to drive by and see where a lot of the athletes train for the Olympics. And then I went up to Pikes Peak, which this was one of the highlights of the trip. So Colorado is known for the mountains, especially what they call the 14ers. So peaks or summits over 14,000 feet. And this one is kind of unique, Pikes Peak, because you can drive all the way to the summit. And this is my first time like really going up, a crazy mountain like this. And the road was really windy. It's a bunch of switchbacks and can fit two cars okay. But there is no guardrail on it as you're going up or down. And so it's not, the most fun drive. It was a little nerve-wracking. And when you first start to go up, as you're entering the Pikes Peak Park area or whatever, the person at the entrance says, before you go up, make sure you don't use your air conditioning, because that can affect it with the air being so thin or whatever. It can affect your car. And they also said, use first gear when you're on your way down as well, because it is pretty steep. You climb, I think it was a total of like 5,000 feet from the start of it to the summit. Something like that. And so drove up the mountain there, got to the summit of Pikes Peak, took a picture there at the summit. There's a sign that says the elevation of 14,115 feet. So that was pretty cool. And they got a little gift shop up there and everything. And the views are incredible from there. You can see all around for miles and miles and miles. It was a pretty clear day, so I could see a really long ways. But yeah, it was just amazing. I gotta say that I was feeling the elevation a little bit. When I first got out of the car, it was like it took a second to catch my breath. I think I had some adrenaline pumping too from the drive up as well. But yeah, it was interesting. And the crazy thing that I saw, which nowadays I would maybe like to try potentially, but there was like some sort of race going on where you race up the mountain, which looked really brutal and crazy. Not only are you gaining a ton of elevation and you're at a high elevation, but you're running up the hill too. So that was pretty crazy to see, and I watched a little bit of that. So then after that, I drove back down the mountain, which was a little nerve-wracking as well, especially because on the way down, you're on the outside of the mountain, or outside of the road, where you can fall off the edge very easily. So that was a little nerve-wracking. But then once I got down, I drove south through the rest of southern Colorado and drove down into New Mexico. Let me look at the map here. So yeah, I drove south through Pueblo, down into New Mexico, and went kind of a back way through northern New Mexico. I went through the town of that's called Taos, I believe, and that's in really northern New Mexico, a little town there. And yeah, we just checked out the scenery. It definitely started like as I was going south, it started to turn into that more desert, southwestern type of landscape. And then I ultimately stopped in Santa Fe for the day, and went to the little town square there. There's a bunch of vendors in the town square there selling jewelry and whatnot, Native American jewelry and all that. And I went to the New Mexico History Museum, which was great. Great to see the history there. As a history fan, I really enjoyed it. They had a little stone that marked the end of the Santa Fe Trail, which was interesting as well. And I don't know, I really liked it. It was a fun day. A lot of driving that day, but it was a good time. And then I drove a little bit outside of Santa Fe. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I went into like a state park and did some hiking. I can't remember now what it was called, but beautiful scenery. Kind of had the like the slot canyon type of stuff where you walk through, and the rocks have been kind of shaped by the water over the years and stuff like that. But I really liked that. And then I ultimately drove down to Albuquerque for the rest of the day. All right, so I made it down to Albuquerque, and I spent the night there. It was pretty much evening by the time I got there, so I just went to the hotel and had some dinner. And then the next morning I got up and I went to I believe it's the Petroglyph. Petroglyph National Monument, just outside of town there. Amazing to see the old petroglyphs on the rocks out there. Some really cool pictures of that. Interesting history as well. And then I went to the, what is it called exactly? It's the New Mexico... Hold on, let me look at this. It's the National Museum of Nuclear Science, National Museum of Nuclear Science and History in Albuquerque. And that was really fascinating. I really enjoyed that. It was interesting to see how, the atomic bomb and all of that stuff sort of came about and how it's evolved over the years. And cool to see some of the old bombs that they had. There were some bomber planes out there as well. I don't know, really interesting to talk about or learn about the nuclear history in this country. And then from there, I went to Sandia Peak, which is, there's a little tiny little mountain range on the east side of Albuquerque. It's the eastern edge of Albuquerque there. And I went to where you take the tramway up the mountain. And so that was really cool to take the cable car up the mountain. And it was just a beautiful day out there. And so I got a great view of all of Albuquerque. And there was a sign up there that said, on a really clear day, you can see all the way into Arizona or something like that. You can see a long ways on a clear day. And it was a pretty clear day, and I could see forever. It was pretty cool. And that rises up to a little over 10,000 feet at the top as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then I went back down the mountain and checked out the rest of Albuquerque. There's the old town, and so I walked around there for a little bit, and then I think that was pretty much it in Albuquerque there. And then I headed out of town. I went west, so this is where I made my turn west, and I went through. I ended up staying in Gallup, New Mexico that night, which is a really tiny town in western New Mexico, just about I think it's 10, 15 miles from the Arizona border. And so that's where I spent the night. And then the next day I got up and I drove into Arizona. The first stop in Arizona was the Petrified Forest National Park, which is just over, not too far from the New Mexico border. in Arizona. And so I went there, and that's a really fun park to drive through and just check out the scenery. Lots of the red dirt, red hills, kind of landscape, and then the petrified wood is all over the place out there, and so you can drive through and see it all over the place. It was really cool, actually. So I drove through that national park. So that was another national park I checked off on this trip. And then from there, I continued west a little ways. Not too far away is Winslow, where the Winslow Meteor crater is. It's actually a little bit south of the town of Winslow. South. And so, I went there, and that was incredible. I've seen the Winslow Meteor crater a couple times from a plane as I've flown across the southern U.S. And it's so big you can see it pretty clearly from a plane at 30,000 feet. But it was amazing to go up. There's a little viewing place right there on the edge of the crater, and it is absolutely massive. It's crazy to see how large it actually is, and it's about 550 feet deep at its deepest. And it was really cool. I don't think I have a picture of it, but they had a little thing. They have a little astronaut down at the bottom, and you can look through the little telescope and see the little astronaut out there. Apparently they've done some astronaut training out there. They've done that sort of thing out there as well. And there's a moon rock in the little museum that they had there too, which is cool. Or part of the meteorite. Not moon rock. This is me rambling a little bit there, so I apologize. But that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I bought a little piece of the meteorite. And I think if you're driving across the U.S., I think this is a really fun stop. You don't have to stay very long. There's not a lot to see other than the huge crater, and learn a little bit of history about it. But it's pretty incredible to see, and to see what what a meteor can do to the planet. If that type of meteor would have hit Los Angeles or New York or something, a lot of people would have died, kind of thing. So it just kind of shows you how fragile, humanity is on this planet, and how easily we can get wiped out. And that wasn't even a very big meteor either. All right, and then from there, I went to where did I go? I went to Flagstaff. So I kind of made a roundabout. Flagstaff isn't too far west of Winslow, little ways, but actually I was staying in Flagstaff for the night, but I drove to Flagstaff, and then I drove down through Sedona, Arizona, and went through all of the beautiful red rock there. Really, really pretty to see. I saw it in the late afternoon as the sun was starting to set and everything, which I really enjoyed. It was really pretty. And then I ultimately stayed in Flagstaff for the night. When I got into Flagstaff, I went to the the Lowell Observatory, which Lowell was a famous astronomer, and that was a really cool observatory to go see as well. And then I stayed with a friend in Flagstaff. So it was kind of funny how it worked out, and this is one of the joys of travel, I think, without naming names and everything. When I stopped in Boulder, my cousin's wife, who had their new baby, we were talking about the rest of my trip and that sort of thing, and she was like, "Oh, my sister lives in Flagstaff. She's going to school there at Northern Arizona," and she was like, I'll let her know that you're coming by or whatever, and maybe you can stay there, stay at her place with the roommates and everything. And I was like, oh, sure, that'd be awesome. I could cancel the hotel, save some money, that sort of thing. It'd be kind of cool. And I could get a local's perspective of Flagstaff. So that ended up working out. We got connected. So I stayed with my cousin's wife's sister in Flagstaff, and it was actually a ton of fun. Her boyfriend at the time was a DJ, and he was playing that night, and so we went and saw him play, had a couple of drinks, had some good dinner too, and it was a ton of fun. So I really enjoyed that. That was kind of an unexpected perk of the trip. Anyways, and then from there, the next day, I went drove up to the Grand Canyon. It's I think an hour and a half north or so of Flagstaff. So that was another national park that I checked off, and I gotta say, the Grand Canyon is unbelievable. I took a lot of pictures of it while I was there. I could try to describe how amazing it was, but I really can't do it justice. The pictures don't do it justice. It's something that everyone has to go see in their lifetime. It is incredible. It doesn't even look real. It's so big. It looks fake. It looks like it's painted on there or something. And so I really enjoyed that. I spent most of the day there around the park. Just absolutely stunning. I really, really enjoyed that. Words can't describe it. So, I was up there for the day. Got some beautiful pictures. Didn't get to go hiking too much around there, but it was a ton of fun nonetheless. And then I drove back down to Flagstaff and stayed the night again. And then I went the next day. I made my way south, and this was kind of the last day of the trip. Let's see. In the morning, I drove south from Flagstaff, drove down to Phoenix. By this point, I had driven 3,500 miles or something in 15 days. And so I was like, I probably should get, an oil change and just, make sure everything's doing good with my car, just because I had run it so hard for the last 2 weeks. And so I stopped there in North Phoenix and got an oil change for a little bit. Hung out, got some lunch. Didn't do anything in Phoenix, just because I'd been there a few times already. And I wanted to get back to San Diego and get ready for school. So, I stopped there for a little bit, and then I drove over to San Diego, made it back to my apartment. Everything was still there, even though I hadn't been there in a few months. Got some new roommates, got ready for school, unpacked my life that was in my car for the last 2 weeks. Put up, all the new pictures and stuff that I had got over the trip. Post all the pictures on Facebook, that sort of thing. But this was an amazing road trip. I had so much fun on it. Still to this day, it's one of my favorite trips. It was a ton of fun. I spent a lot of time planning it out. It got bigger and bigger, as I said, over time, and just, I don't know, the way I did it, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't stressful at all. I got to see so much of the western and midwestern U.S. I got to see so many national parks. I got to see so much beautiful scenery. Got to see family along the way. Saw so much history, so many things have happened in the western U.S. And it was awesome. A lot of memories that I will never forget. And just a lot of things that have made me fall in love with travel even more. And it's almost as much fun now to go look back on that trip and go through these pictures and relive this a little bit. And actually, it really makes me want to go do something like it again. I would love to drive through more of the U.S. As well. And actually, since that trip, I have driven through a lot of the U.S. on various trips. I have crisscrossed the U.S. all over the place. I've driven through a lot of the country, especially the Midwest, over the years, and I would love to continue to do so. And one of the funnest parts too was I have a huge world map hanging up in my parents' house with pins for all the places I've been, and the funnest part was I got to put so many pins into that map because of that trip. I had checked off a lot of new states on that trip, and it was awesome. I can't say enough how amazing it was. I think everyone should go do a road trip. Take at least 2 weeks and just go drive. I think especially in the Midwestern U.S., driving through the scenery and seeing just all of the natural landscape out there, I think that is really, half the fun of the trip. There's a lot of amazing things out there, a lot of amazing things to see, a lot of diverse landscape as you go more north or go more south. If you're further into the western U.S. or more towards the Midwest, it changes a lot. Especially for anyone that's from the East Coast, you're going to see a lot of things that you have never seen before. You're going to see some big mountains and very different landscape from the eastern U.S. Now, I've driven through a lot of the eastern U.S. as well, and that landscape is very beautiful and also just very different to the west. So yeah, that was my road trip. Like I said, it was about 16 days altogether, 16 and a half or something like that. Went through 11 states. I think it was 7 national parks, and just so much fun. So I'll post pictures of it on Instagram, especially when I'm promoting this when this comes out. And I hope you all enjoyed, and let me know where you're road tripping to this summer, or where you would like to road trip to. And then hopefully soon I'll be able to give you another road trip story of my own. So thanks again, everyone, for listening, and make sure you go like this or whatever you do on here. Get notified that these episodes are popping up. It really helps me out. Which is going to help me give back to all the listeners and fans and subscribers and all of that. Go check out my YouTube channel, Our Travel Experiences. You can check out some videos there, which are going to show some of these pictures. It's going to show a lot of things on there, and some travel tips in different places around the world. And so that's a ton of fun as well. And then again, make sure to stay tuned for the book that's coming out in December. We're moving along on it. I've been emailing back and forth with the publisher. It's coming along. We're getting closer, and I can't wait for it to come out for all of you to read. So, I think that's all I got. One thing I think is important to mention about this trip too is I did this almost entirely by myself. So yes, I stopped and met with family along the way, but all of the actual driving was done by myself. Most of what I saw was done on my own. And while, that might be hard for some people to do, at this time in my life, there was a lot going through my mind, and, I was going back into my last year of college, and, things were going to change, after that year and everything. And it was just really, it was something that I almost needed to do, this trip, and to do it by myself was really, really amazing as well. Looking back now, I really appreciate that I did that. It was nice to have it broken up with some, meeting up with family and friends along the way, but to spend, almost all day, every day by myself, just driving, exploring, doing whatever. It was really therapeutic. Got to think about a lot of things, think about life, and really just kind of reflect on everything and get kind of refreshed and renewed for the next my last year of school and for what was to come next in life. And I really appreciated that time on my own. I think it would have been awesome to have someone else there with me for sure. That would have been fun to experience a lot of those things with someone else too. But I think there's a lot of underestimated or underappreciated beauty and growth in traveling by yourself with no one else around. I don't know. It affects me differently than traveling in a group. I feel the experience deeper, in my opinion. So anyways, it was a great trip. Really enjoyed it, and hope you guys all enjoy your next road trip as well. And stay tuned for the next episodes. So thanks again, everyone, and keep traveling. Hey everybody, Kyle here. If you enjoyed today's show and want more, you can always check out every episode on Spotify and Anchor. And now you can also listen on YouTube. Links are in the description below. If you want to see my travel pictures as well as travel pictures from guests on the show, you can check them out on Instagram. The page is called Our Travel Experiences Podcast. And if you want to share your own pictures on the Instagram page and or be a guest on the podcast, you can message me via that Instagram page or email me at ourtravelexperiences@outlook.com. I would love to see your pictures and hear about your travel experiences. And if that isn't enough for you, make sure to check out my new show, From Around the World Fridays. Every Friday, I'm taking 5 to 10 minutes to discuss one specific travel topic, whether that be questions I get from listeners, sharing some souvenirs that I've bought over the years, or discussing one particular city or country that I've been to, and so much more. You'll be able to listen to that via Spotify and Anchor as well, and be able to see the video version, which I'm really excited about, on YouTube. So check it out. I promise you won't be disappointed. And thanks again for listening, and I will see you around the world soon.